All right, let's do it. Dividing polynomials, round 2. We are going to focus on polynomial divided by binomials using long division. Like I said in the first video, or in the second video, some of you did not learn to do long division the normal way when you were in elementary school, and that's fine because we'll make sure you're good with it now. This is going to be the general format that we use for long division. It's going to look something like that. The divisor is what we are dividing. The dividend is what we are the divisor is what we are dividing by. The dividend is what is being divided, and the quotient is just the answer to a division problem. So we are going to start just with basic numbers. This reads as 20 divided by 6. So again, this is the 6 is the divisor right here, and the 20 is the dividend. It's what's being divided. So when we start out, what you want to start thinking of is how many times does 6 go into 20? Well, if we think about it, 6 goes into 20. 6 times 3 is 18. So 6 goes into 23 times. So now I'm going to think 6 times 3 gives me 18. I'm going to bring an 18 right there. And then you're going to subtract. 20 minus 18 gives me 2. So 6 does not go into 2 any more times because you want to think about how many times does 6 go into this now? 6 doesn't go into 2 at all, so that's our remainder. So 3 remainder 2. But I know that's not what your calculator would say, and I know that's not what you guys would tell me if I asked you how many times does 6 go into 20. So what we want to think of is if I ask you 3 divided by 2. Well, 3 goes into 2, or 2 goes into 3 one time, and then we have a remainder of 1, but that would be 1 over 2. So the same way we take the remainder and put it over this, we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this 2, that's a remainder, and I'm going to write my final answer as 3, and we'll call it 2/6. Well, you probably wouldn't write it like that either. I can put a plus in between because that'll make more sense soon, so I'm going to reduce that if I can to 3 1/3, and we'll leave it just like that. Now, when we start getting ugly like these guys over here, there's going to be a little bit more thinking that we have to do. So if we look how I wrote the question for you, I already set it up in your long division template, if you will. So the first thing I'm going to think of is I'm just going to look at this y squared, right, or y to the third right here. And I want to think about how can I get, what do I have to multiply this thing by right here to maybe get it to be, let's think about the first two terms. If we think about y to the third minus 9y squared, if I take this thing, y minus 3, and we multiply that whole thing by y squared, let's think about that. Y times y squared is y to the third. That's cool. Negative 3 times y squared is negative 3y squared. And then the same way we subtracted over here, I'm going to subtract over here. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky. No one ever likes subtracting. So let's just add by a negative. So I'm going to change this to a plus, and I'm just going to change these individual signs because instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. So I'm going to go like that. And that's going to make your life a lot easier moving forward. So when we do that, y to the third minus y squared, or minus y to the third goes away. And then I have negative 9y squared plus 3y squared, and that gives me negative y squared. And once we do that, we're just going to bring this 27y down. And now we're going to start fresh again. So let's go back to my original, let's look at the divisor, my y minus 3. And I want to try to get y minus 3 to be negative 6y minus 27, or negative 6y squared plus 27y. So if we take y minus 3 and I multiply it by, let's say, negative, because I want it to be a negative 6y squared, negative 6y. Let's see what that gives me. And I'm actually going to move these over to keep them lined up. I'm going to make it the y squared right here and the negative 6y right here, just so it's on top of the y's and the y squareds, so we can stay in order. So now when I do that, I just lost my exponent. Okay. let's think. If I multiply by negative 6y, that's going to give me negative 6y right here. Y squared, which is cool because I think some stuff might cancel out. And then negative 6, or this negative 3 times my negative 6y gets me a positive 18y. And now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to subtract. But I said no one likes subtracting, so let's just add the opposite. So I'm going to change all my signs, and this is going to become a minus now. So negative 6y. These things right here, negative 6y squared plus 6y squared cancels out. And I'm left with 27y minus 18y, which is 9y. And then we go to the next step and do the same thing again. Minus 28. And let's see what happens. Now I need to get this y minus 3. Let's try to get it to be a 9y. So you're probably thinking, Mr. Dan, let's multiply by 9. If we multiply by 9, I'm going to get, I think we messed up somewhere. 27y minus 18y is definitely 9y. Nice job, Mr. Dan. Oh, no, we're good. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Forget what I said. Get it down to that. We can factor, or we can multiply by 9, and that gives me 9y right here, which is cool. And 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Really close. And then we said we always subtract, but no one likes subtracting. So instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. And we get it down to that. Now when we do that, we're going to add now, let's see, 9y minus 9y, that goes away. Negative 28 plus 27 is negative 1. And there is nothing else you can do, so that is your remainder. But we're not just going to write that when we divided, we got y squared minus 6y plus 9. This is true, but I also have a remainder. I'm going to write this as minus 1. And I'm just going to take this thing, and the same way we did over here, we took our remainder, which is a 2, and we put it over 6, which is our divisor. I'm going to take this 1, this negative 1, I'm going to put it over my divisor, which was y minus 3. And this whole thing right here will be your final answer. Okay, I'm going to post another video that has additional help with long division if you need it. Go back and watch that video. This video right now, if you need to see it again, slowed down. I'm going to post a separate video for this as well, so you can have another example. I think I'll try number 3, so you have another one.